Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore. A professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
Hi, folks. Joe Mangiacotti here, and I got a little feedback of some type there. Sorry about that. Anyway, good morning and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. And you can join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Don't forget our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. And you text that like anything else that appears in the studio here on the screen in real time, and we try to work it into the conversation. Conrad's at HQ. He's behind the glass, flying the board today. Good morning, Conrad. You look marvelous.
Morning, Joe. You the same.
There we go. Yeah. You're getting used to this new technology, huh?
I am. You know, I'm a Cro-Magnon man by nature.
You were nervous you couldn't see me because of the logo tile, right?
Exactly. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, God, wait a minute. I think the Chinese are playing tricks with an EMP.
They might, considering my stand on China. Who knows? Let's take care of the housekeeping. 508-871-7000. But the station, WCRN, it does stream 24/7 to the TuneIn app, like thousands of other radio stations do. So it's really easy to listen to us on a streaming device, which means you can take us anywhere. And I love that feature. You can have it on your phone, tablet, whatever, computer. I use it all the time. It's a great feature. And I also stream the show from the Cameo studios, means the Cameo cam is on. So if you want to watch and listen, you can do that simply on the station's Facebook page, on my social media stuff at Joe Mangi Show, X and Facebook, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, Rumble, YouTube, and now Instagram. So all kinds of ways to watch and listen. Of course, the show is turned into a podcast when I get off the air, so you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. So there could be Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio is the biggest one. It's interesting. Anyway, 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available, and Conrad will take care of you. So what do we got going on Thursday, July 30th? Well, I got to tell you, I got to just touch quickly on this U.S. and Iran conflict that's going on. Heavy strikes on Iran. The situation had changed again overnight. U.S. Central Command, it says American forces, right? We carried out about 2 hours of strikes against dozens of Iranian targets, including the IRGC command facilities, the missile drone infrastructure, coastal surveillance sites, and even maritime defense assets. The retaliation followed Iran's attempt, as misguided and silly that would be, is to hit American forces in Jordan with ballistic missiles. Way to piss off the Jordanians. Trump said yesterday, hey, so it's our turn. And he promised Iran would be hit hard, and they got hit hard last night. The regional dimension is widening as well, right? Saudi Arabia has now publicly participated with the U.S. in strikes against Iranian-backed forces in Iraq. So that moves the story beyond a simple U.S.-Iran exchange and further into a regional war. So it is elevating. Look, I have been saying for a little while when this all started, and I even tweeted, or I don't know what we call it now, X'd out, to Trump, saying you're being duped. This peace and memorandum of understanding and all that, they just want to get to the midterms, hoping you're going to be attacked if the House changes, and then get to 28 is what they're trying to do. And you're letting them. And I don't think we should let up. I think we started this, just finish it, for crying out loud. And as long as the imams in these caves, or the IRGC, is the ruling government in Iran, it will never stop. in their minds, you got to think of that they're religious fanatics. They have no problem, going to see Allah in paradise, what they think is waiting for them. And it used to be, right, 100 years ago, that land was Persia. And they let in a few Muslims, took them in as refugees, and 100 years later, this is what we have. And I know memories are short and people rewrite history, forget history. They declared war on the United States of America in 1979. It just was an act of war. They attacked our embassy. They took American hostages. And they have killed thousands of Americans since, and they're still trying to kill American soldiers and Americans. So it's time to finish this. And when I say finish it, I mean eliminate the ruling entity in Iran. And I think Trump isn't saying that out loud. And I know people don't understand what's this Trump zigzags and so forth. And I agree, it's frustrating as heck. But go read his Art of the Deal. Go watch old episodes. I've said this before. You want to see how the man thinks? Because he doesn't, he's always on. It doesn't matter if the camera's on or off him. He's the same person. Go watch some of the old episodes of The Apprentice. I know you think that's silly or whatever, especially Celebrity Apprentice. Oh, he fired Gary Busey or whatever. Just watch it and watch how he took information and processed it and reacted to it and so forth, because that's Trump. And what he asked for, what he says, does not mean what's going to happen. So there are really two American first questions here, and they are not contradictory. America has every right and obligation to obliterate threats to American troops. Now, where's the line between decisive retaliation and open-ended Middle Eastern war? But this isn't Middle Eastern war. It's Iran. It's Iran. And, the House passed the War Powers Resolution, right? 214 to 208 on July 23rd. 4 Republicans joining Democrats, although the corresponding Senate effort failed 47 to 49. So when Iran fires ballistic missiles at American servicemen, should the president need another congressional vote before destroying the launchers, bases, and command centers behind those attacks? No, he's the commander in chief. It's made that way. It's made that way. All right, guys. We got China. China may be helping out, guys. China may be arming Iran, and Trump is putting Xi on notice. This has become a much bigger issue, too. According to Reuters reports there, Iran is expected to receive 300 to 400 Chinese-made QW-12s and FN-16 shoulder-fired air defense systems. Now, that's estimated to be somewhere between $60 and $70 million. And there are man pads designed to engage in the low-flying aircraft, helicopters, and drones. And as a former Air Force auxiliary guy and a pilot and interested in aviation, I find, as I'm doing research, finding out that they're actually still using the A-10 Warthog or Thunderbolt. Now, you guys might know, you would know the plane I'm talking. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you would know it if you saw it, because it's the awkward-looking plane, right, with the double, so it has the engines on the upper, right, and they're designed
A-10 Warthog.
Yeah, the A-10 Warthog. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I do.
It's kind of ugly looking. I think it's a beautiful plane, but people think it's kind of ugly, and maybe that's where Warthog comes from. But it has the 2 aerials in the back, and the engines are actually mounted on the upper side of the fuselage and the tail by design, because usually when the engines are lower, they're hard. It's tough for them to land or take off on runways that might have debris, right? A chunk of anything goes in there, you're done. The Warthog engines are high, and they're fantastic for landing in taking off on runways that might have been bombed or there's debris. They're not going to get sucked into the engine. And what has happened, that wasn't a big announcement or anything. This is a plane that's 40 years old. Older than that. And they've been trying to retire this thing, I think, since the 90s. And what's interesting about this is we quietly revamped this thing. We replaced all the copper wiring with fiber optics. We put armor shielding in the cockpit and part of the fuselage. We upped the engines and changed the rail system under it. So this isn't carrying 4 bombs anymore. It actually can carry 16. And it's a deadly, deadly machine, and we're using it. And it's great for low-level flying. It can weave in and out of the terrain, so hard to get picked up on their defenses or radar systems. So it was really cool to see that the A-10 Warthog, or the Thunderbolt, also known as, and there's a P-47 Thunderbolt from World War II that was used a lot for training. That was the name of my squadron, was Thunderbolt Squadron. So I have a affinity for the name. But I think that if this conflict hasn't done anything other than show off American technology and military might, I got to tell you, China and Russia's got to be watching this. Even Venezuela. All of their defenses and radar systems were Chinese. We disabled them in a minute. These drones and the technology coming, we're using such a combination. When they launch something at American ships, American bases, we intercept them with aircraft, with drones, with high energy beams, i.e. lasers. We're even using concentrated radio waves, which actually came out of England. We have so many technological advances, and we are tipping our hand in a lot of places here. But we're also, I think, causing some would-be enemies to maybe think twice about what they're about to do. And this report is concerning. I don't think it's definitively been done. Trump was asked about this, and he said, well, stuff like that happens. I'd be very disappointed about it, but Xi's coming. I think what does he come in September, maybe? So not good. And considering the way this is going, why would you want to throw in with them? But I think we're past, and what's the U-508-871 with that? We're past the point of no return with Iran. Because we did take out the command, the leadership. It was gone to the second tier. I think we took them out. So the dark side of that, or the bad side of that, is it's been replaced probably with a more hardcore than we had, which unintended consequences, because look what they're doing. They're just, oh yeah, we'll sign this. And I've said this before, the ceasefire with these people, it's not the end of firing upon each other. It's just slowing down the amount of badminton we're playing. And that's what this feels like. And I am getting sick of, because I'm hearing Trump say the same things. Just stop talking about it. Do it. And I understand, because he's Trump and he hates to blow up a refinery, and he hates to blow up, the piping systems and the docks and the infrastructure, because what he's doing. He's looking at that either we will control it, or we will strike a deal where we get a piece of every gallon of oil or barrel of oil pumped out of Iran, or leaves Krug Island. That's how he's thinking. So he'd hate to ruin a revenue stream for the United States. Just the guy. That's what he is. And Trump was asked about the report about this. He called it surprising, as I said, because Xi Jinping personally assured him China would not provide weapons to Iran. So he said he'd be disappointed. if those assurances were broken. And he said just a few days ago, like 5 days before this, right, that, and he warned China and Russia involvement would be very bad for them. And I think Russia has miscalculated Trump's America first in a big way. And I think Putin, more than Russia, right? I think Putin assumed America first meant we were going to move more to isolationists, pull back our European presence and just kind of isolate the United States across two huge oceans type of thing. And although there is a lot of pullback, and certainly a lot of money is stopped, right, with the USAID, which is funny because, just as a side note, have you noticed ever since a lot of funds have been stopped going out of USAID, the Latin American elections have started to change. The far left progressives aren't winning anymore. The more conservative candidates are winning. And it looks like there's been such a drop off in the riots and protests and looting. And I know that seemed to calm down. So you make your own decision if there's a connection between those things and us funneling taxpayer money through USAID to NGOs and other countries.
That's a really good point, Joe.
Yeah. You make your own decision, but I'm pointing it out. Geez, USAID, billions stop going out of taxpayer money, and all of a sudden, more conservative candidates are winning.
Honduras, Bolivia, the list goes on. It's like 7 countries, Joe.
There you go. Interesting connection, right, Conrad?
Absolutely.
And then, prior to a lot of this money drying up, there seemed to be so many more riots and looting and organized. And those lootings, the rushes on stores, that was all organized. Our law enforcement put that together real early. That, wait a minute, they're using social media. This is very coordinated. When they go,
yeah, legacy media will be bringing that up shortly, won't they?
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah, they're very good at that. So, but just as a side note, this is something I think I brought it up in this edition of Weekly Report. You can hear this week's Weekly Report. Actually, probably later today or tomorrow, I'll have it posted. It'll be at ff.org. I'll put it on joemangiashow.com. You can always go to the Rumble, the Weekly Report.online, but we'll air the audio of it, I think, Sunday at 5. I think it's Sundays at 5. 5:30 is, I'm sorry, Donaldson File. Maybe you can help me with this. I think Donaldson File's on at 5:30, but the Weekly Report, I think, is 2 o'clock Sunday afternoons. And I think I bring it up on this week's edition of that. Maybe I said it yesterday's show, but it's something that, and by the way, watch my social media. Even when the days I'm on, but the days I'm not, I do a lot of the TOFIs, right? And TOFI is just simply today's observation for you, TOFY. When I'll take one of these subjects and I'll post and put a video up of my essay on it or my take on it. So Iran is becoming a proxy battlefield in the U.S.-China competition at this point. And if Chinese-made missiles start targeting American aircraft, does Washington respond again against Iran alone or impose consequences on the companies and countries supplying the weapons? Good question. Oh, I kind of fell off on my train of thought on Russia, Putin specifically, where I'm watching this going on and I'm saying, you know what? I think Putin totally misunderstood America First policy, thinking we were going to become more of an isolationist country. And yes, we did pull stuff back, but we have been projecting right, with the Greenland situation, the Venezuela. Trump has started to use sanctions and tariffs in a way that has never been used before. And it's, again, to make America first and to stop being taken advantage of. And this is not good for Russia in a lot of ways, the way that we're handling all this. And I think it's a big miscalculation that they misunderstood what America first meant. And it doesn't mean become an isolationist. It means projecting our presence in other ways around the globe and putting us first with the tariffs and the sanctions and the different tools available. And that's not working out great for Putin. Just an observation there. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lines are open and available. Hey, big cocaine bust. This is crazy. $20 million in cocaine caught coming across the southern border. Oh, color me surprised. But $20 million, right? DOJ, federal offices in the Calilexo port of entry in California, they seized 1,002 pounds, actually 1,002.13 pounds of cocaine, 454.56 kilograms worth about $20 million. The drugs were hidden inside the wooden floorboards of a commercial truck and flatbed trailer, carrying 269 bundles of rebar, but they x-rayed. One of the things, right, these checkpoints. They x-rayed the truck, detected some anomalies, enough to pull them over to the garage for a little disassemble here. And a narcotics dog alerted them. Officers removed the flooring, discovered 366 packages of cocaine. Now, the driver, Jose Manuel Lopez, he's 44, Mexicali, pleaded not guilty to cocaine importation charges. Now, the prosecutors say it was the second largest cocaine seizure in Southern California this year. Because in May, cross-border tunnel operation, that produced a ton of cocaine valued at $45 million. See, so securing the border isn't only about illegal immigration, it's cartel, logistics, narcotics, trafficking, tunnels, commercial freight, and organized crime. And this load was intercepted at a legal port of entry, not by somebody hiking through the desert. Border security requires personnel, intelligence, scanners, canines, and enforcement at the ports and in between them as well. So good bust there. Good bust there. And now Massachusetts, and we're going to get into this. Have you heard about this proposed Muslim commission? Massachusetts has not yet created this commission, but we do have S-2134 sponsored by Senator James Eldridge. It's currently sitting in the Senate Committee on Ways and Means, and the legislature's website lists its status as referred to Senate Committee on Ways and Means. So this bill establishes a permanent 11-member commission on the status of people who practice Islam. I should have said, in quotes, Commission on the Status of People Who Practice Islam, unquote. Now, members would be selected by the governor, so it's Healy, the Attorney General, the Speaker, Senate President, Secretary of State, and certain legislative committee chairs. Among its statutory responsibilities, if this passes, it would serve as a government resource concerning Muslim communities, assesses state programs affecting Muslims. This committee would advise the legislature and executive branch by recommending policies addressing Islamophobia and notably, and again, we're into quotes here, identify and recommend qualified American Muslims for appointive positions at all levels of government, including boards and commissions, unquote. Sounds like they're creating Islamic lobbyist group too, on top of it, and then infusing them with quite a bit of power. Now that language is directly in the legislation that I just used. So the bill also provides for a paid executive director, also pays for employees and volunteers, with offices subject to appropriation. And they didn't put it in writing, but I assume Congressman Lionel Presley's felon husband will get the contract for those offices, right? Like he did. Not everybody was going to get that reference, but it's another story. We don't have time to get into it. But a $2 billion.
Oh, you got to get into that, Joe.
Yeah, $2 billion contract for offices and courthouse and so forth in Western Massachusetts somehow landed in the lap of Ayanna Pressley's husband, who is a convicted felon and has done time. So that's amazing. But there's more on the plate here, baby. I wish Sunday was still on the air. It's a good time to get into it. We only have 2 hours a week here, folks. So I'll do the best to fit as much as I can in here. But another accuracy point on this. Some coverage is calling this all Muslim panel. The actual bill says members must be Massachusetts residents who have and now I'm quoting again, demonstrated a commitment to the Muslim American community, unquote. So it does not explicitly state that all 11 must themselves practice Islam. What do you think about that? The Constitution common sense question, because we are a common sense conversation for the common sense citizen here, is right. Why is state government establishing a permanent governmental commission organized around one religion whose statutory responsibilities include recommending members of that religious community for government appointments? One religion. We don't need to declare it unconstitutional necessarily, but what would Massachusetts establish a Catholic commission tasked with identifying qualified Catholics for government positions? Separation of church and state, right? How about a Evangelical commission or a Mormon commission or a Jewish commission? How about an atheist commission? And if the answer is no, why is religion suddenly a qualification the Commonwealth needs to represent or needs represented through a government bureaucracy? This is not going to end well for the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. All right, folks. What say you? Hey, lines are open and available. Tune in here, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. You all know the number. We've done it a million times. Text 617-297-8388. We're going to take a mid-show break here in the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. So stick with us. We'll be back on the other side. We'll expand on a couple of these topics, and we'll introduce some more things going on. A couple here in Mass, and of course, nationwide. So stick with us. Back on the other side, folks.
WCRN. Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Sherry Spearn. Here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. We've got a soaking wet forecast for today. Weather alerts continue with areas of torrential rain expected, which is going to lead to poor visibility and flooding on local roadways. Be careful out there both this afternoon, this evening, and tonight. For tomorrow, although we still have some embedded downpours possible, showers will be much more widely scattered. I'm Chief Meteorologist Sherry Spearn. You can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
If only we were born knowing how to plan for life's big expenses. Brought to you by TIAA.
Saving is absolutely key. What happens if you want to buy a house? That can be a big chunk of change. Good thing we're thinking about it now. Inspection fees, closing costs, escrow. When I'm eyeing that mid-century modern, I want to strike while the iron's hot.
Whether you're looking to save, invest, or plan your retirement, let us help you start planning today at TIAA.org.
When you're making a decision as a consumer, the most important thing is trust, which is why the BBB is such an important tool. Sometimes a new company will generate a lot of buzz, but that doesn't mean they're trustworthy. There are places that pretend they're treating you like kings, while behind the scenes they're making you look like a clown. But with BBB, if you spot false advertising, they're there to help you blow the whistle. Or if you've got a complaint, file it with the BBB and they can actually help you get it resolved.
Test your advertising IQ. Go to bbbadtruth.org.
All right, folks. Welcome back to the second half of the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. I am Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. You can also do the text line if you just want to send. Don't do the 5 paragraphs, guys. Email the show. It's simple. joemshow@gmail.com. A text is a thought, a question, an interjection. 617-297-8388. Mainly because I can't read 5 paragraphs while I'm live on the air, right? I'll be glad to read the emails before I go on the air, after I go on the air. We were talking about just some more thoughts on this thing. And 2 things in Massachusetts I'm going to put out there today is this Muslim bill and Maura Haley with this legislation that she thinks she's going to ban ICE from certain things in Massachusetts. And we'll get to that in a second. But let me just say, supremacy clause, 2 words there, right? State can't tell the federal government what they can and cannot do. But I'll drill down to that in a minute. On this commission, and to recap for you guys that maybe be joining after the break, Senate Bill 2134, House Bill 3351 would establish a permanent 11-member state commission specifically devoted to people who practice Islam.
And Joe, this isn't a Massachusetts phenomenon exclusively.
No. It is not. I mean, look at, Minnesota, Michigan, they're way
Texas.
Down the road. Texas, even parts of Texas, right. So, but the Massachusetts, this is our base. It's happening in your state. Now, I know we have Rhode Island listeners, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and even parts of Maine will listen to this station. And Maine's headed in the same direction too, guys. So let me make something clear before somebody deliberately misrepresents what I'm saying. Muslim Americans are Americans. They have the same constitutional protections I have as a Catholic, the same freedom to worship, the same protection against discrimination, the same right to participate in government as every other citizen. That's not the problem. And by the way, normally you wouldn't have to say this, right? But I'm going to say it. Anything like this, they should absolutely be either American citizens or naturalized citizens. Absolutely. I know that's normally we wouldn't have to say that a few years ago, but you should point this out because what have we found? What's going on with the voter list and so forth. And again, I don't know if I have the time because we're only here an hour, but now New Jersey, remember the first, it was 4,000, now it's 6,000 illegals registered to vote. Now DHS is looking at it and they're saying it's over 35,000. 35,000 people registered to vote who aren't citizens in one state. But let's put a pin in that for a moment. So assuming all of these will work for a moment, I know it's tough to pretend that we just, everybody dealing with any government appointment and all this is actually legally here. Let's pretend that's the case. So it's not a problem. I don't have a problem with American Muslim per se being on a commission or something. The problem is government itself deciding that one religion warrants its own permanent state commission with appointed members, a paid executive director, staff, offices, access to state agencies, and a specific mandate to identify and recommend Muslims for appointments throughout government. That's where I say, no, stop. Where is the Catholic Commission? Where is the Jewish Commission? And I think we should put the Muslim and the Jewish Commission next to each other in the offices, or a shared office space. See how that goes. Where is the Protestant Commission, the Evangelical Commission, the Hindu Commission, the Buddhist Commission? And frankly, I don't want any of those either. I don't want a Catholic board determining which Catholics Beacon Hill ought to appoint. And I don't want politicians deciding the Catholics need an official government liaison. Unless they're going to make me the executive director, of course. And I don't want the same thing created for Islam. There's supposed to be a line between church and state. And yes, I know the intention in the Constitution, and I understand Jefferson was making the point, because remember what they were separating and revolting against, that there shall be no state religion, meaning that the initial meaning of the separation of church and state was saying, look, the government, our new form government here can't say you all must be this religion, although we are a Christian nation founded by Christian principles. But they didn't want that connected. And I'm going to link this back to our deal in Iran right now. That's exactly what we're dealing with. We're dealing with this official state religion, Islam, and we're dealing with the radical militant Islam. And they rule based on their beliefs. That's why they look at people as chattel, because they're there to be used, suicide bombers or harming their own people, and they're not afraid to torture, hurt, and even kill their own citizens. And they will continue to fight while they lie to our faces, sign whatever we want. I've said it before, when you get to Iran, until they're out of power, that's what no matter what the deal is, the fight against us and the fight against Israel will never end. You can go find videos and clips of what they're teaching children. I'm talking kindergarten age, little children, and elementary school, all the way through what they call Jews, how they treat Jews, how they refer to us. You can't trust anything they say. Oh, and I think I got sidetracked when I was saying that clip. And I think the president was Air Force One, and a reporter brought up and said, just a few weeks ago, you were talking about Iran, and they're very good people, and you're working with them, and this is wonderful. He goes, now you're calling them scum and some other bad names. I forget what he said. But Trump's answer was perfect. He goes, I got to know them. Simple. He's learned the hard way that memorandum they signed means nothing. Means nothing. They're actually, the Quran says they can lie in efforts to get Islam into every home and to take over. Of course, the question is, if Islam is so great, why do you keep leaving the countries where that's the religion? Because their goal and objective is to spread Islam forcibly. First through this kind of thing, peace-loving, religion of peace, insert the laugh track, religion of peace, and we just want the same rights. You just want to come in and live our lives. Then it starts with phase 2, Islamophobia. We need something in, here in the government, we need some play. And once they get through phase 2, then phase 3 is, now it's time that you convert or you pay the tax for not converting. So I don't want a Catholic board. I don't want a Jewish board. I don't want a Protestant commission or Hindu and all that. There's supposed to be that line between church and state. And the dangerous precedence here isn't that Muslims are somehow the enemy at the gate. They're not. But again, you decide whether you think that is. Do a little reading and research on every culture where Islam kind of got in there. Now, the enemy at the gate is government deciding which religious identity deserves its own political infrastructure. See, once our government begins organizing political influence around religious identity, we've crossed a line that should concern conservatives, liberals, Christians, Jews, Muslims, atheists alike.
Well said.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have to, once government begins all that, right? Equal protection means equal before government, not separate government machinery based upon which God you worship. So this bill should be rejected, handedly rejected. Call your reps, call your senators, right? I mean, they're easy. If you doubt it, you can call the general, the member to the State House, and just simply say, I live in Millbury, I live in Natick, I live in whatever you live, an address, and they'll tell you, oh, your rep is this and that if you don't know. But you should know them, right? They should be something there. All right, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation, 508-871-7000. Another Massachusetts situation, I referenced it a little bit, is in this moves to keep ICE out of courts. All right. Massachusetts is moving closer to becoming not simply a sanctuary state, which again, it's totally made up. It sounds cool. And way, way, way back, a couple decades ago, maybe longer, the concept of sanctuary state was the problem that police had right before we started having the George Floyd riots and all that. We're talking 20 years ago, even longer. Police always had a problem because if the witness of a crime happened to be an illegal, they wouldn't come forward. They wanted to come forward because they wanted to be a good citizen. And I think in those days, when you came here even illegally, you were that illegal that wanted a better life. You got here to America, and my God, the opportunities, right? And even living in low income situation in Massachusetts, you're still living better than 80% of the world. So it used to be a day that the illegals that came here weren't all, or not that they all are now, but we have a big contingent that now comes in. They're either cartel or they're connected in other nefarious reasons. But back when it was a different type of situation with illegals coming in, the sanctuary city concept wasn't forcing these things. What the idea of it was, is if you were legal and you came forward as a witness, you saw the mugging, you saw the convenience store robbery, whatever, you could come forward, make your statement. And if you happen to be illegal, the police weren't interested in that. Right? So in the 90s and early 2000s, police started to put out and say, we don't care that you're illegal. If you come to us an illegal to tell us that you saw what the person looked like, or that something's going on, maybe somebody abused your child, or maybe, God forbid, it was a crime against them, because crimes against illegals would go unreported. So they could get mugged, beaten, and yes, in cases, sexual assault. But they would not come forward because they were concerned that once it was discovered, here you are going, say it was an assault, and you go to the police because you were assaulted, duh. And they find out you're illegal, and they take care of, the file, take the report, and the next thing they say, oh, we're going to hold you and going to call ICE. You're illegally here. So the police would put out the word that if you're coming to us as a witness about a crime, that's what we are worried about. We don't care about your status. That's not our job. We aren't ICE, nor are we going to call ICE or hold you for that. So it worked for 20 years, right, or plus. It got out, sanctuary. Well, New York police aren't going to call them, LA police, Boston police. We're not going to call ICE. Just give us the statement. Give us the information we need. And if you've been assaulted, yes, we will go find that person and prosecute them. So that's where the sanctuary city started for that. And honestly, I don't have a real problem with that. But now it's become governors and mayors and stuff saying we're a sanctuary city and we're going to pick and choose whether federal laws can be enforced in my jurisdiction. Except you forget that your jurisdiction is in the federal government's jurisdiction. And the Supremacy Clause says that the federal laws and the federal law enforcement are, for lack of a better term, above you. You're subordinate to them. That's what supremacy means. So you can't tell in the federal government what laws you get to pick and choose. Could you imagine if that was the deal? If we could pick and choose the laws that we want to follow, and we just declare it. Could a mayor declare their city a Second Amendment sanctuary? Everybody can carry a gun, no licensing, no requirement, nothing. So this whole idea of sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, it's not a real thing. Every time I talk about this, Conrad, do you ever watch The Office?
All the time.
Okay. Do you remember when Michael the manager, right? Great character, was having financial problems.
Michael J. Scott.
Michael J. Scott Paper Company, right? And the accountant guy, Oscar. In the episode, when you find out Oscar's gay, that's a hysterical couple episodes, right? Because Dwight follows him and he doesn't get it. Doesn't get it yet. But anyway, Michael Scott's he's talking to Oscar, and Oscar's talking about, well, the only other you have the option of declaring bankruptcy. So Michael thinks that that's all he has to do. So he stands up in the office and he kind of turns and yells to the office, I declare bankruptcy. He does it like 3 times. And he goes, there you go, I declared bankruptcy. And Oscar's like, yeah, that's not how that works. And that's kind of what they're doing with this is, okay, we're sanctuary city. Golf clap, good for you. Oh, golf clap, a nod to the casual golfer. It doesn't mean anything. Again, you can't just say, well, we're not going to follow that law.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting, Joe, though? Progressives will come back to you and retort and say, well, former Republicans used to believe in a robust states' rights.
Yeah, they should have robust states' rights. But again, supremacy clause. It does. You can't say, I don't like that federal law, so I just won't follow it. Or
agreed. But at one time, though, there was a feeling that Republican governors were very much advocating for their states and maybe intruding on the federal line. I'm just trying to be fair here.
No, I get it. But maybe there were cases where a Republican governor ignored the law or did something against it, because there's a difference between we're not going to help you. And let's make this clear, everybody. There is a difference between we're not going to help you, which they can do, and we're going to actively interfere with your mission. Now that's legal. And I hope I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat, if you interfere with a federal officer, and I'm going to say federal officer because ICE can be triggering for that stupid reasons. The point is they are federal officers with power of arrest, with a mission, a statute mission, statutory responsibilities and powers. And you can't stop them from exercising or carrying out their duties. If you
And that's
do,
true, Joe. And that's
it's
true.
illegal.
But, you know, and on the other side of the coin, I remember a time when CNN would do ride-alongs on ICE raids, and all the Democrats were like, this is wonderful stuff.
Because it was a different president, period.
True.
Period. Go to my social media. I constantly repost the clips of Hillary Clinton and a senator out there speaking to the floor and saying, no way should illegals be getting the same benefits or getting anything that an American citizen gets. And she talked about, and I'm okay with a path for law abiding, and I got to qualify law abiding. I know they broke the law to get into the country, but I'm okay with us reforming things to give them an accelerated path here. You know, if they want to come here and keep their nose clean and work and pay taxes and contribute to society, we should make that a very easy path with a lot of background checks and securities. But put a pin in that. So there's plenty of clips of Hillary Clinton talking
as well as
about
Barack
that.
Obama.
And then Barack Obama, when he was running for
That's
president,
right.
he would get up there and lambast Bush for allowing 5 million illegals. 5 million.
That's right.
Okay. And Barack Obama was going out of his mind for 5 million illegals. But he allowed maybe 20 million under Biden. And I did say he allowed. Because if you think it wasn't Barack Obama behind the curtain, you're not paying attention. So they've all changed. And to your point, Conrad, yeah, the CNN was doing ride-alongs. This was great. And they applauded Barack Obama when he cracked down. Let's go back to the 90s with Clinton, who doubled, right? He doubled the Border Patrol agents. They all... And I love this when you see the man on the street things that, you know, some of these now, and I love the fact that we have all these alternative news companies and citizen journalists, but when you see that man on the street type person go out there and they just random people say, you know, tell me, you know, do you think Trump is racist? Yeah, of course he is. Why do you think? Well, I don't know, but I've been told that he is. That's what I'm supposed to understand. Well, let me read you. Does this sound racist? And then they, unbeknown to the person, they read quotes from Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and they say,
But
do you
Joe,
think those are
then
racist?
they
Wait, let me finish
discovered,
this.
though,
Wait, let me
they
finish this.
discovered
Wait a minute.
that
Let me finish this.
unfettered borders create areas where all of a sudden a state can come blue. And that's what changed.
Yeah, that is. My point being on that, though, so then when at the end of it, they say to them, actually, that was Hillary Clinton. That was Barack Obama. And you watch the meltdown in the brain, and they, you know, because they were unreal. So now, yes, to your point, that's the reason, right, to turn red, purple, purple, blue.
Exactly.
It has
Joe.
been an orchestrated effort because A, get them in here, B, get them amnesty, get them on the voter rolls. They didn't even wait for amnesty or citizenship to start putting them on the voter rolls. And this goes back, and this is it was a pet peeve of mine a few years ago, and we used to have a state senator join me once a month, right? We all remember Mike Moore would join, and he was doing my show once a month and coming in when that bill was going through, issuing driver's license, right, to Massachusetts illegals. I'm against it. He voted for it. And he quoted Big City's chief of police union or something, said, oh, it's it. I get all that. Well, yeah, but if they don't have a license, then if you pull them over and they have no identification, because if you pull me over and you can't find me in the computer and I don't have my physical license on me, you're impounding my car and you're putting me in bracelets, period. So I say to Framingham Police Department, because I know for a fact that Framingham, because I'm a Framingham police officer, I knew they were told if you pull over, and there's a high Brazilian population here in Framingham, right? Marlboro, Hudson. Point is, they were told, police officers were told in the town of Framingham, now city of Framingham, if you pull over and they're illegal, don't do anything. They're never going to, don't take it, they're not going to show up for court. Don't bother arresting and so forth. So the unofficial policy in Framingham was just leave the illegals alone on traffic. And that's crazy. And I was against anything that, like the motor voter thing, against it. I've stated this before, and I'll defend it. And if you don't think, you disagree, please come up and try to convince me. Call 508-871-7000. But I think anything that automatically registers somebody to vote is asinine. Because if you are doing that, often they don't even realize they're registered to vote. And that's one of the reasons in New Jersey with the 6,600 people. We're all registered through the licensing. All done through the licensing. They were all illegals who got licensing. And I know several people in New Jersey who are here illegally, and they all have New Jersey driver's licenses. And they got registered. Because if you don't, if you're not eligible to vote, you shouldn't be registered. And I told the senator back then when this was going through, and he's saying, but that's illegal. It can't be happening. Wow. Do you listen to yourself? It's going to happen. The registry is not that good at this. It was all on them. So people are going to get registered to vote who are not eligible to vote. But even if we separate that, I don't like the idea that you automatically register people to vote because you're loading one in the chamber. You're putting a vote out there from somebody who probably isn't going to use it. Because if they don't have the interest in registering themselves, they're probably not going to go to the polls. So you've just increased the number of potential votes floating out there. You know the person who you registered is not going. And that's how sometimes you get the situation, and then we got story after story of people who go to vote. And they say, well, you can't. You already voted. You mailed your ballot in. No, I didn't. What can I tell you? You did. You can't vote right now. So that is a big problem. And yes, to your point, Conrad, 100%. Matter of fact, who was the female Democrat talked about, and she said, if the Save America Act passes, Democrats will never win another election. Now, I think that's the quiet part out loud that she wasn't supposed to say. So
yeah, I saw that on X. I'm trying to remember who it was, Joe.
Remember that? That was crazy. And that's true. We have to pass the Save America Act so that everyone voting is absolutely eligible to vote and they're a citizen. But we are out of time. Conrad, thank you so much. Great job today. You're Ted back next week, or will you be producing next week?
I'm here next week.
Oh, fantastic. We'll look forward to it. All right, folks, that wraps it up. Have a fantastic day. Back next Wednesday morning, 11 o'clock. But follow me at Joe Mangi Show, and I'll be posting Tofis 1 or 2 a day, folks. Joe out.
WCRN.
Fox News, I'm Therese Crowley. He warned Iran it was